Episode of Two Smooth Operators. Special guest tonight, Brian Dickson from BD Loops, and your host, Michael Brooks and Robert Evers. Stay tuned for another great episode of Two Smooth Operators.
Too smooth.
What's
Coast
up?
to coast, coast to coast, baby. Ain't no Chicago. You know what I'm saying?
That's right, Chicago.
Two smooth operators. No, that's what it is. It's coast to coast, LA to Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that one on your DJ Evers?
No. I
Nobody
do
ever
Sweet Home
requested
Chicago, though.
What's that?
Sweet Home Chicago.
Sweet Home Chicago.
Yeah.
Well, I'm who sings that?
It's a blues song. A lot of different artists sing it.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if you ever hear, we have a request for Sade, I think that's who it is. Smooth operator, then you know it's going to be me. We're going to do that at the Fitz Cruise. They better
I will.
They better have a karaoke bar because I'm going to be up there. But I only do one song.
What's that?
Ice Ice Baby.
Oh yeah, come on.
It's the only song I know back and front. So that's about it. Well,
that's good.
So man, it's been an easy week for me. I haven't been out there in the field training anybody or doing anything, consulting or anything like that, man. I was stuck in. What's happening this week? Check out our in-field playlist. I had to make sure that bottom was right. So anyways, I was stuck in the Finch University all week. I was doing a private one-on-one class with a guy who has a garage door company out in California.
Awesome.
Want to get into gate operators, just like a lot of fence guys should be getting into gate operators, but we'll see how that goes. I'm going to try to convince every single one of them that I can because they're just leaving money on the table. So I didn't have really much going on. I heard about a bunch of stories and stuff like that. And speaking real quick of anybody that is interested in taking a private class or the class that Finch University's got coming up, our guest is going to be there teaching. He's actually going to be showing us how to cut 2 loops. I've talked him into allowing us to do a preform loop and a hand wrap loop, and we're going to time it and see how quick it is, and then we're going to show the benefits, and then we'll just put 2 preform loops in. We'll pull that one back up, and we're going to save the time. Anybody that hasn't registered for the class, we sold quite a few tickets today being Thursday, so we're probably at 9 or 10 seats left. We had somebody buy, I think it was 4 or 5 of them, so we're slowly but surely going to max out the capacity at J.C. Gurry and La Habra, California. So I wasn't doing anything in the field. I guess you could say I was just sitting on my butt all day. What were you doing out there this week?
Man, it was lit this week. It was trucks on the road. Well, trucks on the road and doing service calls. 2 LA 400s this week and about 6 service calls.
That's what I was about to ask you, man. You got that marketing program and pushing out those LA 400s. You figured that one was one of the better ones to go out there and do because it was right for the budget of your customer and good enough to make sense. So what'd you have going on?
Well, first week, I went and done the LA 400 for one of my customers and a little fence repair, chain link fence repair. Made a little video, put it on my own Evers Electric Gates and Fencing.
Couldn't put it on the 2 Smooth Operators page. That's okay. I get it. It's just about gate operators.
Well, you take too long. No.
Well, that's a good point. You did give me. I got those 2 videos. I had to steal them off of Facebook, but you did give me a 10-minute video. I got to go in there and edit. If it's not a minute long, I can't put it up in there. I
did like a 3-minute video. And it was more like for advertisement. Hey, this is the LA 400. This is a residential gate operator. You get a photo eye. You get a couple remotes. And then that's the basic package for it. And there's no conduit ran. I'm using in-ground wires, tie straps, zip ties. So this is like my bottom of the line. Installed correctly, but without maybe conduit and stuff like that. And
it's safe. It's only putting out a volt or two or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be.
Mhm.
So it's safe,
Yeah.
but yeah, I get it. And
And
how many
so,
do you
well, I had to come
put
up with
in?
a package where somebody can say, "Hey, I'll buy that." That's
Yeah.
because if somebody buys it on off the internet, they're not going to put no conduit and all that. They're going to just put it down there and go. So I'm
What if you
basically going to do the same thing, just tied it up, make it look neat.
what if you're running wires to a keypad or something like that? Do you
Wireless keypad, babe.
wireless keypad? Gotcha.
Yep.
So how many did you put in this week?
I put two LA 400s this week.
Oh, cool. What else did you have going on?
I did a spider door keypad at a mini storage and a service call that same day on another gate that they have out in the same city.
But just typical stuff, cheap wire or cheap install?
No, this is not cheap. Far as like when I'm doing the commercial, um,
No, does it
it's
was the
different.
service call because somebody else did it cheap and you had to go in and fix it?
No, it was. Well, I just took on this client, and they got like mini storages all over, and they want me to service all of them, and so I I took them on, and they hired me to put in their spider door because I reckon I sound like I knew what I was doing because I done put in um spider doors last year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so easy. I didn't do nothing, as far as programming. All I did is hook the wires up and go. But we had to core drill 3 holes and put in 2 ballard posts beside the keypads and put them yellow plastic covers over the ballards. And then
Okay.
I had to cut the concrete and put a wire in the concrete to the keypad and ran conduit to the concrete and conduit to the operator into the operator with
What
the control wire.
what was the material that you were cutting in and what'd you use to cut it and seal it?
I used my concrete saw and I went into an expansion joint and cleaned it out real good. And now they didn't want me to cut it up where I had to dig it out and put conduit in it. So I told them I could do it in a way where I could just cut it, lay the wire down, and then I laid another dummy wire down over top of that wire, and then I
Okay.
sealed it up with some BD loop sealant.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've used that stuff a couple of times. What'd you get? Black or gray?
this is gray because it was concrete.
Concrete to match.
Yeah,
Now what's the temperature out there?
it was 33 degrees.
Man, will that stuff even work at that temperature?
Yes, sir, it worked. It
Well,
took a little. It took a little while to dry,
yeah,
but after I did my core drilling for my 2 ballard posts, when the
yeah.
water was over top of the concrete, it was over top of that sealant, and it looked like it didn't go through. I mean, it was like the sealant was there forever, and the water was just not seeping through. It was over top of the sealant. So
Well, I don't believe that it'll work at that temperature. So what I'm
you
gonna
bet.
do,
You better
I'm gonna bring somebody on and prove you wrong, man. Let's see if it
bring them
will.
on.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. We got Brian Dickson from BD Loops in here.
How
So
we
we were
doing, guys?
So you heard that last
Hey,
part of
hey.
the conversation, and I know you have a low temperature sealant, and I know you have a
hmm
sealant that's good for the everyday purpose. So Robert was out there working at 33 degrees. Were your stuff in the caulk gun that he just showed that worked at that temperature?
Yeah, that BDLS loop sealant that will work
It
above
says it right
32
there.
degrees. Yep,
Above
above
32.
32. That's the number.
So he was
Now, the
cutting it
colder
close.
it is, though, the longer it will take to cure.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a
yeah.
moisture cure product, and when it's cold, the moisture is frozen in the air, so it does increase the cure time. In normal temperature, you're looking at 60, 70 degrees weather. This stuff skins over in approximately 45 minutes.
So
And
Hmm.
so with it
45
being,
minutes to
yeah, which is
touch.
much quicker than most other loop sealants that take anywhere from 3 hours and up. Now, yes, skin over, so to the touch. It's going to
Gotcha.
continue to gain strength over the next couple days. But
Mhm.
something else that he mentioned was interesting was you said water went over it afterwards, right?
Yeah.
A lot of other sealants, they have problems with that. Water
Yeah.
goes over the sealant when that happens. Like polyurethanes, when the moisture comes in contact with that, a chemical reaction occurs where it creates CO2 gas. That's where you get the bubbling of the sealant
Mhm.
after it's been
Mhm.
applied. So if you ever go to a site and see that, it's because they used a polyurethane loop sealant and water came in contact with it after, which honestly, for most applications where loops are being cut in, especially on wet cutting, you can't avoid the water. This
Mhm.
stuff, this is an MS polymer. It doesn't care about water. In our testing, it could actually cure underwater.
Oh wow.
So
Awesome,
this
man.
is a unique blend of materials that
Mm.
allows you to not have to worry about it. Hey, I got
Yeah.
rain happening. I don't want a flood coming and picking up the sealant and running off of it.
Yeah.
But if you got a little, stream going over it, that's not going to be a problem.
Hmm.
Is that
And
was
what
that
I've
your
noticed
experience?
is these other sealants after a couple of years they dry up and shrink.
That
So
is also true. So this is 100% solids. A lot of other loop sealants, even at the time of application, because they're solvent based, the solvent evaporates. And when that evaporation occurs, you get dips in the loop
mm-hmm.
sealant after you apply it. That's why you have to go over it a second time, is because the material's evaporating in addition to settling. But as the material wears, some materials become harder and brittle. And when it becomes hard and brittle like that, you're going to get cracks that form and it's not going to adhere to the walls. Ours remains flexible, so it stays with the surface and flexes and moves with the hot and the cold and the contraction that's going to occur.
Mm.
Are you having a distinction between blacktop and concrete when you're talking to people about using your sealant other than cosmetics?
Not necessarily. They're both porous surfaces, and when you do apply them, you want them to be applied to a dry groove if possible. I would say the hard rule is no standing water. Make it as dry as possible. In your area
Yeah.
right now, it's Evers, it's cold. So you're going to have
Mm.
some areas where it snows, some areas where it's wet. I talked to a customer today doing a loop for a drive-through at Culver's, and they had to go in and torch the ground before they applied loop seal with how cold and wet it was.
Wow.
But to answer your question, Brooks, uh, it has superior adhesion to both concrete or asphalt, so it's usable in either surface. As far as the surface preparation, they're relatively the same. Cut the groove, push the wire in, seal it.
Robert, have you ever used his two-part sealant for when it gets really cold?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I
so let's
wouldn't
talk
have no
about
need
that.
for that really where I'm at. So nah.
There's two advantages to it. The one is it's a winter blend, so it will cure in below freezing temperatures. To my knowledge, it is the only solution that's available in that type of weather. Also,
Okay.
freezer door applications where it's never going to get warm. It's always going to be cold. Otherwise, all the stuff in the warehouse is going to get uh, spoiled. But the other advantage, number two, is when used in warm weather, will fully cure in 10 to 15 minutes. The colder
Mm.
it is, the longer it will take to cure, but the point is that it will cure.
Mm-hmm.
But keep in mind, this is your everyday stuff. This is what you use on most applications. The
Mm-hmm.
BDLG2, that two-part loop sealant, that's more of a solution sealant. That if you need that winter blend or quick cure characteristic, that's what you pull out. And it does only come in a dark gray color.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking
Now,
about this one comes in gray or
yeah.
black.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the BDLG2 comes in a dark gray, which I'd match that to like an aged asphalt, for example.
Yeah. Now the two-part sealant would be good also if you're working on the gate and there's people coming in and out at the same time while you're working on it and you need it to quick dry. You just use the two-part sealant. And how long
Hmm.
does it take to dry?
In warm weather, 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
It's fully cured at that point. And that's because, this guy is a single part loop sealant, whereas the BDLG2 is a two part
Mm-hmm.
as a polyo and iso. And when it mixes the materials, it's kind of like an epoxy delivery method, but the material's a polyurethane at the end of the day. So that quick cure
Uh-huh.
makes it so that it sets up quick.
And also, that will probably cover you on liability while you're doing this, and while a car drives over it. Or 15
For
minutes go
sure.
by and the car drives over, you kind of secure on that.
I do have a tip on that. So the single part loop sealant, you can still open a lane up immediately after application as long as you underfill the groove just slightly.
Yeah.
And at the end of after you seal it, the tube is rounded. You can take this empty tube and then just scrape the bottom of the groove and pick up any excess into the empty end of your
Okay.
tube. And then that makes it so that you have an underfill, just slightly underfill.
Hmm.
Or you can also put sand on top of it after you apply the sealant while it's still wet. When you put the sand on it, it's not tacky anymore. So when vehicles drive over it, won't pick up the sealant and tack it down the driveway.
Okay.
So Logan, he was saying right here that he's used BD loops sealant completely under 1 inch of water and was not called back. So you're telling us how it work, how it's designed to work, Brian. But in general, will I mean a little bit of water kill it, or it's just one of those things? It's designed to do this. Anything other than that, we know it will, but we're not guaranteeing that it will, type thing.
Hey, it's designed that it can cure underwater. And when you apply it, you want to apply it so that it adheres to the wall. So having it applied to a dry groove, I don't know the specifics of that application, but when you apply it, if it was adhering and it had some time to cure and then the water came in after because they had a heavy rain in the evening, it will still cure and you still already secured to the walls and it's still going to flex and continue to gain strength over the next roughly
Hmm.
7 days or so. So yeah, it will still work in those types of applications. Obviously some are going to be better than others in regards
Yeah.
to overall cure strength. Every application is a little different, but it is designed to be tough as nails.
Yeah.
Robert, where are you buying it out there on the East Coast?
I buy from my distributor,
Oh yeah, do you want to give them a shout out?
East Coast Gate Operators out of Charlotte, North Carolina.
There you go, man. Gotta love
Roxanne.
Charlotte. Roxanne. Well, there you go. Anybody that's on the East Coast, there's one distributor that you could buy at. Anybody that hasn't been to Brian's website, it's bdloops.com, correct?
bdloops.com.
Sorry, I should have put that. I should have put that on there. I think I started and then we were talking about something else. I forgot. But bdloops.com. Not only is it a great resource for just loops in general, but he also has a distribution list on there as well too. What's the shelf life of your one part? Just your regular? It's called the LS.
Yeah, BD-LS, short for Loop Shield, and it's a 1 year shelf life from manufacture date. We're making a hell of a lot of this all the time, and that's pretty standard for most sealants. And the one
Yeah.
year shelf life applies to the BDLG2 as well. It does, from my experience, though, it has tended to last longer, mainly because the two components are separated.
Okay.
But storage is important in maintaining good shelf life. And obviously, follow first in, first out. Don't buy the new stuff and put it in
Uh,
front of your older stuff. You're going to
Yeah.
have a bad time when you go out to a job site and pull that last tube out of the back of your truck. And it's all hard because it's, 2 years old.
Hmm.
Robert, are you stocking sealant or are you just buying it as you need? I mean, you'll eventually end up with a couple of tubes left over.
Well, I got I just bought 2 cases of black and 2 cases of gray,
Yes, sir.
and they'll probably last me about. It just depends on if I get some loop calls, and then I used 5 tubes of it yesterday, and
That was
so
on that expansion joint.
hmm so I used 5 tubes yesterday, so that's like a half a box almost.
So, Brian, do you have to use this with Baccarat? And Robert, are you using Baccarat?
You talking about laying another wire down or something?
No, the closed cell Baccarat. It's just that foam that you put on top of it. So you're
Oh
obviously not using it.
no, no,
No, okay.
no.
So on a BD loop, you don't have to use back rod. The jacket of the wire already is a wedge shape, so it acts
Hmm.
as a built-in back rod.
Yeah.
Now, if people are hand wrapping their own loops, I do recommend the use of backer rod, but not throughout the entirety of the groove. My recommendation is to cut the backer rod into little 1 to 2 inch pieces and
Yeah.
stuff it in every 3 to 4 feet, just so it holds the wire down, But the reason for that is you need the loop sealant to do its job, which is to encapsulate and protect the wires and self-level and flow. If you do the entire groove with backer rod, you're essentially creating an air pocket. Now, with an air pocket, you get a lot of problems. Air pockets can leave room for the wires to move, which can result in false detections. Or if you're in a cold area, where Evers is at over here, when it gets cold, water expands. And that's going to push that backer rod and the wire up and create a larger void for more water to get in there, freeze, and expand. And that's why the loops pop up out of the groove in cold applications.
Okay.
Brooks, you're in Nevada, Texas. I'm in
Yeah.
California. We don't get as much of that snow, so you may not have experienced that problem as much. But hey, that's how it works, and that's the stuff I see all the time with people installing loops and problems they experience.
All right, so this is a perfect example how I always think that I'm right, but I'm wrong. So we now have a third out of the four people that are here that were saying doing hand wrapped loops is just insane. And I hand wrap my loops, and typically it's not because of the quality or longevity of the BD loops. There is no debate there. The heavier jacket that you have on the outside, the more durable it's just got to be. I mean, it just seems like it makes sense. But it's always because the jobs that I work for, the contractors I work for, the fence companies I work for, the salespeople, they have no idea what they're doing. So for me to buy like a 4x or 6x16 loop and then go out there and find that it's a chevron shape or an L shape or something like that, or it's supposed to be two independent loops. So that's one of the reasons why I hand wrap it. But obviously, Robert, you don't do that. And I know that there's a lot of people that are just sold on preform loops.
Yeah, I am, because I used to hand wrap mine. And then when I started doing the preform loops, I'm like, nah, I ain't doing that again. It's just so much better liability, durable.
You do have to know the site requirements. Smaller gate requires smaller loop, bigger gate does require a bigger loop. And that's why we offer 58 standard sizes of loops. We have a loop for any lane width.
Yeah.
And you do actually have a lot of versatility though in a loop. A
Mhm.
standard 4x8, that's a 24-foot perimeter. That can be made into whatever perimeter you want that matches
Yep.
24 feet. You can make it into a 4x8, a 3x9, a 5x7, a
Yeah.
6x6. And you do have that versatility. And any BD loop can also be made up to 4 feet smaller than what it says it is. So you could also make that loop into a 20-foot perimeter, which is a 4x6,
Mhm.
So tell us
3x7.
how would you do that? You just replace it or just relocating where that knuckle's at?
Yeah, the knuckle you referred to, we call that the yoke. And
Yep.
Yeah.
at that yoke, you basically position it down the lead and run, laying the loop wires parallel next to
Yep.
each other down that lead in. And yeah, you have to make a little wider groove for that area,
Yep.
but you're not going to have to do that very much
Mhm.
because you're doubling the amount you reduce.
Mhm.
Every inch that you take of loop down the lead and run, you're taking 2 inches off from the loop. So if you do that 1 foot, 2 foot off from the loop, you do it 2 feet, you're taking
Yeah.
4 foot off from the loop. This
And
is
and I've
why the cuts don't need to be
yeah,
exact.
I've done that plenty of times because I've had like uh 12 by, well, I mean 6 by
Uh-huh.
18 or 16, and I needed to just make it a 4 by 8, and I just doubled it up and put it in the ground like that, and or in the groove, and they're still working today.
And remember, a loop's detection height is 2/3 the short leg. You got wire laid parallel next to each other right there. It essentially creates an undetectable area. And I got another comment on you, Brooks. So another thing is about planning, right? It's a lot
Yeah.
about planning and knowing, and the sales guys going out there not knowing what the lane width is, not knowing what size loops you need. I'm making tools for them too. I think I emailed it to you, the new BD Loops loopulator. Did you check that out yet?
I did, but I was told not to talk about it. It's still under heavy design. So
Hey, it's being used. It's live. It is a soft release, but I'm gonna
Mm.
make it even better than it is now. So
so
it's a layout calculator. It's a free tool on our website,
Mhm.
bdloops.com. And what questions does it ask you? How simple is it?
So first of all, it is very simple, and it's also very, very fast, and it's mobile friendly. So basically, it's relatively simple. It first of all asks what kind of gate. Well, I don't know if the order, but it asks what gate it is, right? So it's a
Yep.
slide or a swing. I think it asks whether it's one or two.
If it's a single swing or double swing, because they have different loop size placements. Yeah.
And then I think the width of the drive, and that's it, right?
And then saw cut or direct burial. Like, are you
Oh,
gonna
okay.
saw cut one in, or is it new construction, like you pour a new concrete, or is it gravel road?
Yeah.
And with that information, you get a diagram of placement, exactly where the loops go, an explanation of their functions that you can include with your bids. It is a usable document as custom instructions that match the application.
So anybody right now that has a question for Brian, one, you can put it on the chat, but two, if you guys want to go live over your phone, I got the link in the description down there. So I've used your loop sealant as well too, and I did not like the tip. The tip was specifically designed so that the sealant would flow, in essence, out the bottom and kind of out the top, right?
Yeah, it goes down into the groove so that you're applying the sealant from inside, which gets better encapsulation. There
There
it
you go.
is. Robert has it right there. And I think I know why. I think you mentioned it earlier. Do you run backer rod throughout the entirety of your groove?
Not on that particular job.
Not on that one. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
but
yeah,
you
if you can't put it in all the way, then the tip's not gonna, apply the sealant inside the groove.
You're right. Well, we're gate techs. We're not the smartest guys in the world. So
Ah,
I didn't put two and two together, but after I had a conversation with you, just like as always, I learned something. And you said you can, one, modify the tip, and
you
then
can.
two, you could physically modify it. Then you could also I think you'd given me the suggestion to actually possibly put tape around it as well
Yep.
too, so it's just coming out the bottom.
It
So
basically has like two exit points. One goes down, the other goes forward. So as you're going back with the tube, it dispenses in front of you and down into the groove. So it's designed to fit into a 3/16 inch wide cut, which is what all of our loops fit into. But even if you hand wrap, that is the optimal blade width is 3/16. And if you are using a thinner groove, or even honestly a wider groove, there is going to be a little bit of a learning curve on how you have to apply and how fast you have to pump or
Yeah.
push the button on your electric or pneumatic.
Yeah. That groove I did yesterday, it was a wide groove, so you had to kind of sit there a little bit, and I slowed my speed down, sit
Hmm.
there a little bit longer, let it fill up, and just move. And I'm gonna tell you what, it right level with it, it sealed up perfect.
would you say that it was probably a little bit more, I don't know what the word would be, stiff because it was cooler out, or does it come, or because it was colder out, or does it
It
come out?
wasn't stiff at all. It was
What?
well. See what I also do this too. I crank my truck up.
Yep.
I put it in the floor,
Yeah.
run the heater for while we're there setting up, and that
So,
keeps your sealant in a good temperature.
so anybody that does that has at one point in time done more than 10 loops with a hand crank gun. So are you using an automatic gun, or are you still doing it by hand, Robert?
Automatic gun, bro. I had to get that thing.
Yeah. I don't remember what kind of tool fan are you? Are you a Milwaukee or a DeWalt or what?
D-Walt, baby.
Oh my gosh, man. Both of y'all are crazy because I know Brian has Bosch, right?
He has the
Makita.
cheapest thing you can buy.
I
No,
got Makita.
Makita. I just remember it was blue.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or turquoise or whatever the color
Green.
was.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Team
remember
yellow
Brian
over here.
Frederickson put a post of what he bought one time, a pallet of
Hmm.
aerobies and stuff like that. That's why I said the cheapest thing you can buy.
Yeah. You got your, yeah, Brian's mixed up. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I
anyway,
know. I got it mixed up.
Which one's one, Brian?
I've been through two Milwaukees now. Now, here's one thing that I think, again, your sealant has that's superior is that the design of the tube in the back is a lot more hefty than what you would find at the big box. Robert's showing it right there. It's
Yep.
like a good almost a 16th, if not a 16th inch of inch thick, and it's probably less likely to bust out the sides.
Amen, brother.
Which will eat through your guns like that. And that's exactly what happened to mine. Is I just got sealant in there, didn't take it apart, and then it busted up. So I definitely recommend using an automatic cock gun. I don't know what either of your guys' experience is, but I know in most of the big box places you can get the gun, but I had to each time buy the one that fit these size of tubes. I had to buy that part of it from a third party. Does that sound right to you guys?
Yep.
We order ours off the internet, so.
Oh, so you just did
there
it.
is more than one version though. You can get the little boy and you get the big boy. And this is a 30 fluid ounce tube. This is a big boy.
Yeah.
And to comment on that, we do the extra step. We actually wax the inside here. So it creates additional friction so that as you dispense and put pressure on here, you're going to have that wax move with it so that it continues to dispense and you get less leakage out the back. And should you get leakage, rubbing alcohol will help clean it up off your tool while it's still wet.
Yeah, that trick that you did for us here at the Finch University by using the back of the tube. I mean, granted the concrete was real smooth, so I'm sure it's going to vary per surface. However, when you turn that back of that tube around, all that extra stuff that the students were getting on the sides, you just cleaned it right up, and you can't even tell as of today. So one of the other things that you used while you were here at the Finch University, not the first university, one of the first classes that we did was that we used your pizza roller. And now that I think about it, we used your loops, the sealant, the blade, all that stuff. But you
did the whole thing.
You have tools as well too, right? What tools do you have that you commonly will sell to us fence and gate guys?
Yeah, it's mostly the blades and the pizza wheel kit, which the pizza wheel kit's a method to help push the loop into the groove so your guys aren't down on their hands and knees using fence ties or sharp screwdrivers to push that loop in. And it also comes with what we call a dog ear corner block. It's that 45, and it's just a little template that quickly marks your 45 for what size it's supposed to be. So you don't make it too big or too small. A lot of people make their dog ear cuts too small, and if they try to maintain that same inch and a quarter depth, the cuts intersect. And if the cuts intersect, you got a corner piece that can pop out, and that's a problem. But we do offer blades, 14-inch diameter, which is what fits most standard size walk behind saws. But we also have a little guy, 7-inch, that fits a word and drive skill saw, and that is actually a really versatile tool. I don't want you to get the whole loop with that. That would be a lot of time on the hands and knees going really slow. But it's good for places where you can't get the big profile walk behind saw. So going through the curb, going under the gate panel, going next to the gate panel, places, and you got one guy cutting the loop, the other guy could be doing that stuff that requires a bit more dexterity to go up next to the curb or do your dog ear corners where it's a little bit harder to move and pivot that big walk behind saw.
Robert, I saw your saw on our YouTube channel, which is the only show about that gate operator life, man. But we're one of the few people out there that are talking about gate operators all the time. And so far we've got like 50 some odd videos on our YouTube channel, which is at Two Smooth Operators. But I had never seen anybody use that rig that you have with the steel saw. What type of blade are you using? A consumable blade or a steel blade?
That BD loop blade.
Oh, okay. And then is that rig for sale or did you make that?
That rig you can buy them. We bought that rig about 20 years ago.
Oh,
and
wow.
I had a different style saw that's on it. This is like my third or fourth saw of 20 some years.
Oh,
they are out there. Yeah, it's a good entry level way to, if you're not doing your own cutting now, you can get a rescue saw. And one of the big advantages of the rescue saw is it's small. It fits in the back of your truck. It's easy to get
Yeah.
off your truck, unlike the big walk behind saw. Don't get me wrong, if you're doing a lot of loops, investing in a good walk behind saw is gonna save you a lot.
Yeah,
But
I
for
just
the entry
bought
level,
a used one.
yeah. But for the entry level, it gets the job done.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the rescue saws, sometimes those rescue saws though only take a 12-inch blade. You may have to upgrade the guard to take a
Mm.
14-inch, which is what you use on most walk behind saws anyway. But hey, if anyone out there needs a 12-inch blade, I can make it. I can get it.
Oh, cool. What are you? So you're using a 14-inch, Robert?
Yeah, 14-inch.
Okay. Did you have to replace the guard, or you just bought it like that?
No, it came 14. It was designed for cutting like that.
Gotcha.
Um,
And
for
you're not
cutting
handling.
steel and concrete is what it like. What most construction companies use it for is to cut concrete tiles
Uh,
Mhm.
and big steel I beams. They use that to cut stuff like that or demolition.
So, Brian, you're going to be with us out in La Habra at our How
Uh-huh.
to Install a Gate Operator course that JC Gurry is hosting us at, and which is not too far from your shop.
no,
Hours. Yeah.
not at all. It's about like 15-20 minutes from the
Oh,
BD
okay.
Loop
I
show.
thought okay, cool.
Hey, given what time you leave in California, that could change dramatically. But yeah, it's about 15-20 minutes, JC Gary shop.
Great.
Okay.
Do you ever do tours of your shop over there
On occasion,
on
it's
occasion?
open. We're actually, so we moved into a newer facility in Placentia, and we've started to build it up a little bit, and we got a classroom set up, and we're going to eventually, in the near future, start offering loop training out of there too.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
So, how often in your training that you do throughout the year, how
Mhm.
often are you actually cutting loops, installing the loop, installing the sealant, and tying them into gate operator?
Never. The
Never.
classes, the class format in our industry is you sit in a chair at a desk and you watch a PowerPoint, and you talk about the product and the methodology behind it. It's not a lot of hands-on stuff. I'm big on education, and I'm big on displays and showing people in the classroom how it's done. It's not the same as actually getting out there on the concrete and asphalt, cutting one in.
Mhm.
That's a different experience. That's something you only learn on the job, and that's very valuable.
Yeah, it's
So,
tough to teach.
Yeah.
it's scary to teach as well too, because and it's fair to say that to redo a loop is not something that most people are going to be able to do the second that they find out that they've done something wrong or that something has happened to it. For us, when
Mhm.
we do a loop, I'm like, okay, next week I'll be out. It's not something that gets handled right away. There are ways to do it right away and things of that nature, but not very many people I know just day to day carry a saw on them.
Yeah,
So,
and but on that note, I was working the job site last summer and putting in the loop, and so I had my two guys that's been working with me putting them in, but I'm always the one cutting them. So I said on this one, you're gonna cut it, and because it was at a place where I can get away if it ain't straight, because I knew they wouldn't say nothing about it,
mhm.
and so I let him cut the first one, and he went in and went out, and and I was like, and I weren't there. I was working on the operator, and I came back and said, "That's not straight, man." I said, "If we're on $1 million driveway, we'll be running out of here."
Yeah.
And so I told him the next one. I said, "You got to." I said, "You kind of work it back and forth. You got to kind of steer it a little bit, keep it going straight." I said, "You just got to watch it real close, and look at your corner and look down at your blade and kind of go with it." And he got it straight. So I had like one loop with a little. nobody said nothing. The manager, he probably don't even know what a loop is anyway. So, but it
Yeah,
worked
the
out. And sometimes you got to find them scenarios where them guys can learn like that, where
oh,
they're
for
gonna
sure.
make a mistake. And they're gonna be crooked sometimes, and
Hmm.
as long as they get the other side straight, I'm happy.
Well, that's what I routinely say in these classes, which is um, like if we're going to make a mistake, let's do it here in the classroom and not in front of a customer. Now, I
Yeah.
know that there's not very many instructors out there that would agree with me by saying would probably agree with me, but would not say it to the student. But there are dumb questions, right? Our job as a technician diagnosing stuff every single day, we're going to eventually ask some dumb questions, but our job is 99% wrong to be able to get to what is right. Now it's a little bit of an exaggeration, I get it, but we are out here in the business of asking questions like, so has AT&T been out here cutting anything, or have you noticed that your neighbor's done any work? For the customer's going to look at that and possibly go that's kind of a stupid question. Let's ask those questions in the classroom so we can get past it and not ask those questions in front of a customer. So
Yeah.
I am excited about every time that somebody says, well, what do we do here? What do we do there? Not necessarily why. I'm not a big fan of why we're doing something. You're the expert. You've been doing it for 20 years. You just tell me what to do and then we'll do it. So here's Logan. He said, we have the walk behind saw. It's pretty good. It was 2470 from World Diamond Source. Logan, I appreciate that. Logan's up in Ohio, so if Logan, if you're listening, let me know if you're using that 2-part sealant, because I know it gets cold as heck up in Ohio. But yeah, so the fact that you're going to be out there cutting a loop with us,
Hmm.
I don't how often, Brian, do you actually even go out in the field while the loop is being cut and loop is being installed?
I'd say I go out probably every month or every other month to a job site with the customer and show them how it's done. But
Mhm.
actually, in a classroom format where you're out there teaching people the do's, the don'ts, the tips, the tricks, the way to get it done more efficiently and better, that's a different game plan. One thing showing my product, another thing teaching how to do it right. You started this conversation with, hey, you agreed that you're going to let you hand wrap a loop. I teach people how to hand wrap loops every single day. I want
Mhm.
people to be successful in their installations. But hey, if you know how a BD loop works, honestly, you're never going to want to hand wrap one again once you understand all those processes and how it all works. Yeah,
Robert,
Robert knows that
yeah,
firsthand.
Yep.
and I definitely see the benefits. Being an old school guy, setting my ways is one thing, but I'm not going to limit the student from learning the right way just
Yeah.
because I do it a little bit a
Yeah.
different way.
Mhm.
But anyways, so we're excited about that, and I think that that's one of the things that we need to be screaming from the rooftop. That
Mhm.
we're going to show you how to get the gate operator level by welding the low side first and then pulling up or welding the high side first and then pulling up the low side. And Robert, you should have seen me when I was asking this question, because I was like, all right, am I stepping across the line by asking Brian if it's okay for us to do a hand wrap loop? And I was just like, maybe I shouldn't actually do this. But Brian, he just proved it. He's absolutely
Yeah.
okay with showing it. And obviously, if you see it being hand wrapped or seeing it just being put in all at once,
Mhm.
you're gonna understand some of the time
Well,
savings.
if you're in a situation, I don't have a BD loop and I can't wait, hand wrap it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You need to know the tips and tricks to do it right. And I want them to know. I want them to know the right width, the right depth, the right number of turns, the right type of wire to use. There are pieces that you need to know. Yeah, using a BD loop takes that guesswork away. You don't even have to even think about that stuff, but you still should know how to wrap a loop for
Mhm.
sure. I teach it. I'm going to teach it at my class in fence tech how to wrap a loop. I'm going to teach it A couple weeks, I'm going to be in Canada at Banff at the Canadian Fence Industry Association. Get to teach it there too.
Yeah, that's cool.
Speaking of fence tech, I guess you answer one part of it. The other part is Robert and I are going to go as well too, and we're going to be doing. Well, we're just joking around, calling an unauthorized show, but we're going to come around to guys like you. And actually, part of the reason why we're going is to support people like you because you've done so much supporting us.
Yes.
So we want to do what we can to help you get the message out, and the debate will just have to go on and on about hand wrap or preform. But I think the better question is how do we get these dumb salespeople? You think gate techs are dumb? These sales guys, man, how do we get them to understand it? And I think that's where we have that balance between some of the classroom stuff, which I'm all for, and the balance of hands-on, because there's part of it out there that is knowing what it looks like when it's done right, knowing that you're never going to do it. So when it's done, you can see whether it's done right. And then that guys like Robert and I that do both. We need to know what it looks like when it's done, and then we need to be able to do it properly.
Yep.
So we're excited about that. Well, we'll be at Fence Tech definitely supporting you, and hopefully I get to join in one of your classes. Do you have any more details about the stuff at Fence Tech? Do we have to pay to go to your class? Is it part of another class? What's the deal?
It is a standalone class. It's going to be happening at Salt Lake City Fence Tech. My seminar is February 25th. That's a Tuesday, 9:15 to 10:45. You do have to, I believe, pay for the exhibits and seminars, like badge level, to attend that seminar. But hey, you get on the floor, you come talk to me. I'll talk loops to you all day long. I'll answer all your specific questions. And,
Yeah.
a lot of this education content that I, yes, present at Fence Tech, it's free on my website, and I'm just a phone call away. And you're out there on the site, you got a weird question, call me. I'll help. My loop or not, I'm here to
Mhm.
help.
Yeah, it's definitely that phone call. It's great to have, but it's not a replacement for being in the class, because the stuff that you miss, everybody else is missing it as well too. So having somebody have the guts to ask the question that you want to ask is helpful. So you've got to go to these shows. And the next one that Brian and all of us are going to be at are Fence Tech. So we're pretty excited about that,
Yep.
to be able to support our team. Robert, man, what's the deal? What's going on? What are we going to do at Fence Tech is a better question.
I
Stay
might
out
be
of
drinking.
Okay. We're see, Brian, you're going to work and we're going to get away from work.
Yeah.
So
I
we're
ain't
going to
working.
You
No.
ain't working.
No,
All
I'm
right.
not there to work.
I'm not there to work either. I'm there to network and have a little bit of vacation.
Hey, all my friends are there. We have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brian, give us a rundown of the best ways to contact you with your phone number and website, and your hours that tech support is open, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up and get everybody out there installing gate operators.
Right on bdloops.com. My email for tech support or really any related question is just team@bdloops.com. So team like a baseball team. And my phone number for the office, 714-723-0946. You call that, you'll get my cell too. It's listed if I don't pick up. But yeah, it's already available. It's all out there. You guys call me if you need anything at all.
Robert,
Yeah.
what's the deal, man? Give us something good before we leave. Tell us something, man.
I'm excited about the new year, man. I'm gearing up for gate calls and taking on new customers and clients. And if anybody needs any help, any consulting on doing gate operators, mini stores, residential, commercial, industrial, give me a call. And yeah, I'm excited, man. I love doing what I'm doing. I love seeing these gates just light up and work and go back and forth and leave, and knowing that you're good enough and confident enough that you're not going to get a service call in the next year out of that gate. That's my goal when I put one in.
Yeah, that's what I love too. That's what made me attracted to this business, because I always said I was never going to work outside. Man, the guys that are working outside they look like they're miserable. But that's not the case in this business, because every service call that I get to go on, I get to satisfy a customer that was completely distraught. And I love that immediate satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing it right, you're doing it a minimum of 4 times a day if you're doing your service business right.
Yep.
So there's Robert's phone number up there. And here's my phone number too. If you need me, 214-931-2626, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. I'm available via text, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And Robert and I will see you on the fence cruise. So you could just type in the cruise on Google. We're going to be doing a live Two Smooth Operators show from the cruise, and Brian Dickson will not be there. He's already got plans doing something else. And like, you got to work or something. Come on, man.
Yeah, I got to work or something. And I'm going up to Canada where it's cold. I wish I was on a cruise.
I'm going to be at Senior Frogs.
Well, we look forward to it, Brian. And, man, we're going to have to shout it from the rooftop that this is something happening in La Habra, California, that doesn't happen, and definitely doesn't happen at this price, where we're going to actually be putting in. We might even put 2 hand rep loops in to see how long it takes, so you guys can figure out how much longer it is to do that, to do 2 preforms. We'll take them out, and then we'll put our preforms in, and we'll seal them, and we'll call them back in 10 years and make sure that they're still working, which they probably are. So, all right, guys, we're going to get off and go enjoy the rest of our week. Brian, thank you so much for jumping on with us. We appreciate it.
Till next time, guys.